When did you realize your parent was a total badass? I was 11, and for some reason, I wasn't at school and with my father when he got word that my older sister had run away, again. Dad went to a couple of houses, with me staying in the car. Then, we went to a biker bar. Dad said, "Stay here." Then, walked into the bar. Being the brat that I am, I waited briefly, and decided I needed to use the restroom. I walked through the door and spotted my sister on the right, at the far end next to the bar. My father was just in front of the door, and to his left were two pool tables, with those low-hanging stained glass lights over each table. There were four extremely large biker dudes right out of central casting. All were much taller than my father, who stood at 5'7". All four had cue sticks in their hands, and all four began moving. My father shifted quickly to stand between the two pool tables. The bikers spread out, and one circled back, going behind the rear pool table. Dad grabbed the table light, and shoved it violently to sideways, hitting the biker solidly in the face. Then the guy on the far side of the table stepped forward, swinging the pool cue like a baseball bat. Dad blocked the cue, gave two punches to the face, grabbed the cue, swiveled it around and punched him with the base of the cue several times to the neck and face. At this point, the third guy came from behind, and struck Dad viciously in the right kidney, causing a grunt. Nevertheless, Dad swiveled around with the cue, hitting the biker on the side of the neck. Then Dad did a little jump, and kicked the knee out from under the biker. The crack was audible. Guy number 4, clearly not being bright, tried to do the same trick with the other table light, and missed as Dad ducked beneath, grabbed the biker by his vest and pulled him onto the table, then elbowed him to the throat. Guy number 2, having recovered enough on the far side of the tables, pulled out a knife and came with a stabbing motion. Dad caught the thrust arm, twisted it with both of his arms, and broke or dislocated the man's shoulder or arm again, with an audible sound and a screech from the biker. Number 1 guy, face blooded from the splintered light, put his hands up in a placating gesture, and backed away. Number 2 guy was on the floor, holding his right arm. Number 3 guy was on the floor, groaning, and holding his leg, which was bent in an odd manner. Number 4 guy was gasping for breath, on hands and knees on the floor. At this point, the bartender started rummaging around under the bar for something, and Dad said, "She's 14 years old." The bartender stood up, backed away from my sister, next to the wall, and put his hands up. Then we went home. Please note that while Dad was quite powerful and lifted weights with biceps that split shirts, he also had a bad right leg and was only 5'7". What is the most embarrassing moment you had as a child in front of your parents? When I was a child, I was a touch-me-not for girls. Somehow, I didn't like to interact with girls. Everybody in the family knew this and teased me. One day my father and maternal uncle, who were somewhere near, arrived in my school to surprise me. There was a girl, who was forcefully made my partner by the class teacher, and although we weren't friends, but because of sitting together, we shared some level of comfort. At least I didn't feel awkward with her like other girls. I was sitting in the class, and suddenly the girl arrived. Some teacher had told her something. "Come with me, Anubov, look who has come to see you," she said. "Who is it?" I said in surprise, because my house was far away from my school. She held my hand and forced me to come. Lost in thoughts, I kept holding her hand as she walked me. I saw my father and uncle walking towards us, and felt really happy, until I saw them staring at the girl holding my hand. Instantly I wriggled my palm, and left her palm, and asked her to go. But it was too late. A little embarrassed, I walked away with them to the canteen. "Your girl-repellent behavior was an act. You have a girlfriend," my uncle said. I kept refusing, but they wouldn't listen and kept inquiring. I knew a new era of humiliations and teasing had started that day. When I reached home, everyone was staring at me. My mother smiled and asked, "So what's her name?" I was in 5th class back then. 4 years I was teased on her name. It doesn't appear much embarrassing now, but at that time, it was indeed uneasy. In your school, has a bullied ever snapped and beat the bully? Yes, actually in my daughter's middle school. My late husband, a 26-year Navy veteran, and I had always taught our children not to ever start fights, to try to talk through any disagreements, and to always go to a teacher if something happened that they were unable to get resolved themselves. It was the late 80s, and my husband had gotten orders to a base in South Texas. Not long after school started, our daughter was coming home complaining about a boy who kept coming up behind her and grabbing her butt. I instructed her to tell her teacher. It was mainly in one class they were both in together. So the next time it happened, she did exactly as instructed, only for the teacher to tell her, just ignore him, he's only doing it because he likes you. I found this beyond unacceptable. I instructed her to defend herself if it happened again, and I assured her that both her father and I would be on her side if the school decided to take action against her. Only a few days later, he did it again. She had books in one arm, and was holding her clarinet case with the other. So she swung around, swung the clarinet case up, and it hit him hard up under his chin. I immediately received a call from the principal. I was informed of what happened, and that they were going to suspend my daughter for 5 days. I asked him if they were certain that's what they wanted to do. He stated that she had assaulted the boy, and that yes, they absolutely had to take action and suspend her. I asked him if they were aware of what the boy had done to her to cause her to do what she did. He evidently was not, so I filled him in. When I was done, he said it still did not excuse her behavior. I told him that was fine with me, and that I would next be calling our lawyer, and that we would all see them in court. I told him that on several occasions since the beginning of the school year the boy had sexually assaulted her, and furthermore she had gone to a teacher, who in turn made excuses for the boy, but took no action to stop him. So we had then obviously instructed our daughter to defend herself. It's a basic human right, since it was clear that the school wasn't going to. I told him that if they proceeded to suspend her, I would also have the local news stations out to put our story on the evening news, and we would proceed to sue the school district for willfully allowing our daughter to be sexually assaulted repeatedly. They didn't suspend our daughter, but the boy, who was obviously being allowed to freely train to become a future sexual predator, did get suspended. He never touched her again. I'm glad we raised our 2 sons to respect females and keep their hands to themselves. Actually, our oldest son was the boy in school that most girls would run to if they were being mistreated. He's now 6 feet 7 inches, although in school he was an inch or 2 shorter. What happened to our daughter happened again, at the next school she went to. Same response from the teachers, but she had stopped using her clarinet case to exact revenge. Instead she started fist punching them in the family jewels. She earned the title Ball Buster, and she only had to do it once, and they'd leave her alone and they were too embarrassed to report it.